Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our council meeting this evening. It will be a good evening, as always. Some are always better than others. This will be a great one. So thank you for coming this evening and attending. Roll call for attendance. Albert Yance.
I'm supposed to say was here.
Was here. Yeah. David Harwood.
Here.
Melissa Pickett.
Here.
And Doug Matheson. Here. Pete Greeny is on vacation.
No, he's flying in.
Is he?
Yeah.
Just for this?
Yeah,
Should we wait a little while till he gets here?
we'll pick him up.
Okay. If you would, please, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, you know, I'm losing a good friend tonight. Well, not losing, but he won't be here on council meetings. Albert Yance, the native of Newton in Catawba County. He served the U.S. Navy for 6 years. He received his degree in history and government from Lenore Ryan College, correct?
Correct.
Former chairman of the Catawba County Board of Elections, chairman of the Hickory Regional Planning Commission, and is retired member of the Newton Fire Department. Mr. Yant received the Order of the Longleaf Pine, presented to him by Governor Jim Hunt. Is that correct?
Correct.
That says, I tell you, you've already achieved more than I've ever achieved. My hat's off to you. Albert has been in Blowing Rock resident since 1995. He served on the board of the Blowing Rock Historical Society, member of the Blowing Rock Board of Adjustments, the Blowing Rock Planning Board. 6 years, is that correct, Albert?
Yep.
Okay. Albert has been a longtime member of the American Legion Post 256. Albert has served 4 terms as council member. 16 years. And he was sworn in on 2007, re-elected 2011, 2015, and 2019. He's been instrumental in a lot of our improvements to our community. So that being said, Albert, would you like to say a few words?
Can I borrow your necktie?
Yes, sir. It's a short one.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes, sir.
Well, tonight's the night for the new, not the old, so I'm going to be very brief, and I'm going to quote Mark Twain. Does anybody remember him? I think your mom was carrying you when she met him, wasn't she, Charlie? Is that right?
Yeah, that was after my mother dated you.
Mark Twain once said, when you keep finding yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. That's sort of been my North Star, being on every board I've ever been on. And the pleasure has actually been mine. Thank everybody for sending me back so many times. Actually, I think it was 8 years too long, because I'm sort of a believer in term limits. Except for me. Thank you, sir.
Albert, thank you. I think you've got a little
Yeah,
something.
we got a few things. I'll say this about Albert. We came in town service about the same time. He came in and started on the Board of Adjustment about 4 or 5 months before I started working here. And I have learned so much from him about his family and his history and his naval service and the American Legion and a lot of other things. Some I can't repeat here. Some are some quotes that 20 years ago we would sit in this room and he'd say some quote about the camel nosing under the tent, and I still don't know to this day what that meant, but we just took that. It must have been something important. But I learned so much and appreciate his service to the town and this community in general, and his friendship. And we've got, as y'all know, he likes goldfish, so we're gonna send him on his way with some goldfish. We'll got that for you. This is from staff.
Actually, I'm going to AA for this.
Okay. And then we also have your involvement with the American Legion down here. This was flying today, your last day of service. And so we framed it, put your years of service to the town and the specific on the back. So we thought you'd enjoy this, and this is from the town staff.
Wow. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. And go ahead, Charlie.
Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Well, you know, I took office 6 years ago. That first meeting was tough. And I had to gavel Albert.
And Jim Steele.
And Jim Steele. Albert always said I was the first one to ever gavel him. It's been retired, buddy.
So my threat finally got to you.
It did. It did. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay. I don't have any more to say.
Okay. Would y'all like to say something?
We actually did this last meeting, and I thought, man, I'm gonna get out of this easy. But, is Hillary here? Hillary, you're responsible for this. Don't believe a word she tells you.
Well, we're going to take a short break so Albert can get all this stuff loaded into the moving van.
Okay?
Is Chief Aaron here? Chief Aaron, Albert might need a police escort if you're here.
That's nice.
So that we can get a better picture of you, maybe holding your flag.
Where?
Just right down here.
Yeah,
We'll
right in
get a
front.
better picture of you.
In front of your nameplate, Albert.
Yes.
There's your goldfish, please.
Yes, we need the goldfish.
Need goldfish.
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 Okay.
Maybe we can. Drop this goldfish.
You stand where
You come
Hillary's
stand up
standing.
here, you can stand right there.
Right here?
Yes, sir. And then David's gonna get a picture. You want me to hold this? You got it. I'm not gonna be in the picture.
Right here. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Albert, do you just want us to put this in Kevin's office?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. There we go.
I think they're for you.
Yeah, those are for you. Those are from Bob Jones. That's one of his paintings, and he gave some all the council. If you wanted to write thank you notes at Christmas time or whatever, send a check, you know.
You want your note?
Yeah.
Yep.
Get your name tag too.
$2 worth.
Okay, I'll never say goodbye till we meet again.
All right. I couldn't catch you. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the mayor had a misgiving, forgetful time. We need to approve the minutes from November 14th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes are approved. All righty. Oath of office. We have myself, Charlie Sellers, David Harwood, and Kat Carey. So, yes.
I think Mrs. Sellers is gonna come up and hold the Bible. I just might take a moment of personal privilege here to say that Charlie Sellers, when I met him, was living down in Burlington, which is where I live. My name is Tom Lambert, and I'm the senior resident Superior Court Judge from Alamance County. And this is my pleasure to come up the mountain and swear Charlie in for a second time. I had to stand him up one time 4 years ago. I think I was in a jury trial, just had to cancel late. Charlie introduced me to my wife at the Ragged Garden Inn during one of the Music on the Lawns, just a little bit more than 10 years ago. She was living in Blowing Rock at the time, and I was telling, there's the fellow who grew up in Burlington, where's Tracy Brown. Tracy Brown, we were speaking earlier. I said I always felt guilty trying to take her from Blowing Rock to Burlington. She was made the transition. She's very jealous that she's not up here tonight. We will be back actually for a night in over Christmas, and we're here Thanksgiving, and I'm retiring next year, and hoping to spend a lot more time up here. I want to thank the council for the good governance that y'all do in the town, all the town staff. This is an amazing town. It's so well run. It's beautiful. It's almost fairy tale-like, and I know y'all hear that a lot. I'm certain that sometimes the locals maybe get tired of that, that it's maybe a little bit too touristy sometimes, but man, it is just a great place to be. And I appreciate the local governance with Mayor Sellers leading the way here and fantastic town council as well. So with that said, Mr. Mayor, would you put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right, and I'm going to ask you to repeat after me. I state your name.
Charlie Sellers,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
and the town of Blowing Rock,
and the town of Blowing Rock,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully
not faithfully
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
of mayor
of mayor,
to which I have been entrusted,
of which I have been entrusted,
without fear or favor.
without fear or favor,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much. Thank you as well. I'm gonna leave this with the town clerk, and I'm gonna watch a little bit of the meeting and slip out, because I'm gonna be in court at 9:30 in the morning. I will say, the first time I came up here, Charlie got sworn in. The room was packed, there were people with charts, there were people, all kind of things, and it was having to do with a very contentious tree issue in the city park. And I didn't stay around to see you have to gavel, so, anyway, best of luck. Thank you all.
Thank you, Tom.
That would be good.
I, David Harwood,
I, David Harwood,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
and the town of Blowing Rock,
the town of Blowing Rock,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the
the
office
duties of the office
of council member
of council member
to which I have been entrusted,
to which I
to which I have
have
been
been entrusted
entrusted, without fear or favor,
without fear or favor.
so help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, God.
You very much. Congratulations. I'll get you to sign it.
Okay. Yeah.
That'll help me out.
Some things never change.
I, Kat Perry,
I, Kat Perry,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and maintain
that I will support and maintain
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States,
of the United States,
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the state of North Carolina,
of the state of North Carolina,
and the town of Little Rock,
and the town of Blowing Rock,
not inconsistent therewith,
not inconsistent therewith,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and that I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of council member
of council member
to which I have been entrusted
to which I have been entrusted
without fear or favor,
without fear or favor.
so help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your hard work and your persistence. Okay. I would like to thank all the citizens and people that ran for office. It's a great year. And moving right along, the Mayor Pro Tem. Council, what are your suggestions, recommendations for Mayor Pro Tem? I did talk to Pete Guarini. He recommended Doug. So do we have any other selections for Mayor Pro Tem? Or anybody that you would like to recommend?
No.
No, so you would you recommend one or you abstain?
I would go with Doug.
Okay, David?
Yeah, I would wholeheartedly support Doug if you would consider staying on in that position.
Thank you. I'm honored and humbled that you trying to help you guys as much as I can. Thank you.
Melissa?
I'm all for Doug.
Do you think we ought to have another vote on this?
Let's make it official.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion for Doug Matheson to be mayor pro tem.
Okay, second?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations, Doug.
Thank you, Doug.
Back into the frying pan. Congratulations. All right. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the regular agenda? So moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the regular agenda? Okay, Ms. Perry, how do you vote? Approve?
Approved.
Okay. Mr. Harwood?
Yes.
Melissa?
Aye.
And Doug?
Aye.
Okay. So the agenda is adopted. Okay, the consent agenda. Now, consent agenda is not up for discussion. If you would like to discuss something on the consent agenda, then the council will have to vote, or one or two will have to agree to have it moved to the regular agenda. Otherwise, once you make a motion for the consent and the vote, it all passes. So, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Ms. Perry, vote.
Aye. Approved.
Okay, Mr. Harwood,
Yes.
Ms. Pickett,
Aye.
Mr. Matheson.
Aye.
Okay, so consent agenda is approved. All right, we have a public comment section. Any of those that would like to come up and speak, give Hillary your name, and we try to limit it to 3 minutes. Okay. Mr. Rick Parsons. Hey, Rick, happy holidays, man. Yeah, if you would, just state name and address.
Just like Christmas, they come. Thank you. My name is Rick Parsons. I live on Green Hill Road in the 1500 block. And I'm here again to talk to the town council and the mayor about the speeding problem that we continue to have. First, I'd like to thank everyone on the town council. Congratulations to the newly elected members. Appreciate all the help that you've given this town, and appreciate all the hard work that you've given us. Now, this is about the 6th year that I've come to this town council, asking you to help us with this problem. I know it's not the only road in Blowing Rock that has a problem, but it is a problem that I'm very familiar with. It wakes me up almost every morning at 6 a.m. when they start speeding. You have the data. I forwarded you information from earliest data that we took in 2017. Most recently, I forwarded you the data from 2021. This is data that you used in your studies. It shows the problem. It records speeds in excess of 60 miles an hour. Not all cars, but some. And it also shows that enforcement is a difficult solution. People speed in the first study recorded by hour. They sped in 17 of 24-hour periods. In the most recent study, they sped over 10 miles per hour, the posted limit, in 22 out of 24 one-hour periods. Now, not everyone speeds. The data showed about 15% in the most recent study. But 15% of those cars speeding would equate to between 100 and 120 cars per day traveling north and southbound at speeds 10 miles above the posted speed limit. I don't know of any residential street where that's acceptable. And I hope that not just looking at Green Hill Road, but at all problem streets in Blowing Rock, that we will come up with a solution that addresses the speeding problems on the known problem streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Council, just to follow up with what Rick's comments were with Green Hill, I know that we've tried to do some things. My recommendations, and I'll let you all individually address Kevin with this later on, is I've had some complaints from Ransom, Hill Street, and Green Hill. And of course, you know, I think that if the chief could maybe make an appearance at Retreat and give us a little history behind that, maybe we can know better how to go forward. So it's just a thought. Get with Kevin if you feel like it maybe should be discussed at Winter Retreat. Okay. All right. We do have a public hearing this evening, and this is the topographic setback reduction. Brian Johnson. Hello, Brian. How are you, sir?
Good.
Good.
Evening, Mayor, Council, and council members. I've got one thing on the agenda tonight, not four like we had last month, so it should be quick here. What we've got for consideration tonight is ordinance number 2023-22. This ordinance being proposed is to help with some setback calculations that helps someone building, gives them a little bit of relief instead of seeking a variance. These methods have been in place for some time. We've got a couple different methods that we can use to allow a little bit of relief for properties that are on steeper lots. The purpose of it is to allow a little bit of staff flexibility to allow a home to be pulled up a little bit closer to take advantage of topography issues, less foundations, a little bit better access and those types of things. Currently, the setback calculation is required to be provided by a North Carolina surveyor. The issue we've had several several folks want to take advantage of this year and even some last year. Surveyors have been very busy, sometimes 3, 4, or 5 months out, so it can hold a project up that long if they're trying to take advantage of this. It's a very simple calculation method. What we're proposing is to allow staff to be able to go out and provide this measurement. It's not burdensome at all, but it would help speed up and I think give better customer service and getting permits out a little bit more efficient. The way the setback does work at this point, we can give up to a 5-foot reduction in the front setback. This only applies to the front setback. Anything above that would have to go to the Board of Adjustment for a variance for any further relief from that. So what's being proposed is basically striking the North Carolina surveyor provides this, and staff has the ability to do a simple calculation based on the topography and be able to give them this relief. We are dealing with a lot more lots now that are not ideal lots. So this is, I think, will become a bigger issue over time as these lots are developed. At August 17, 2023, Planning Board, they unanimously agreed with no changes to it to support the proposed ordinance. Open to any questions or any other clarifications if needed on the proposal.
I think, Brian, with looking at that no larger than one rock is, I don't think we'll run into a problem of that being overused. And what would you say is an average time of probably doing that?
To acquire a surveyor? Or,
Right.
We typically, in office, we try to hold to getting a permit issued within 2 or 3 days, which is fairly quick. And this can hold you up 3 to 4 or 5 months, just because it requires the North Carolina surveyor to come in. Very easy calculation. We see 1 or 2 of them a year, but some concern is we're going to see more of them as some of the tougher lots start to be built on. It's a big advantage to them. If they need more relief, they do have the option to go to our Board of Adjustment for further variance options there. But it's a big time issue for someone that's wanting to take advantage of it.
What I don't understand, and I deal with this monthly, is you're absolutely right. Surveyors are 45 to 60 days out, is what I'm usually contracting for. But if a property owner plans well, they call the surveyor 45 to 60 days before they need them. So I don't know why the town needs to put this in place for a lack of planning on a property owner's part. And for you to go out there and shoot this with the transit takes time. And if we were to go through with this, I would want the town to be reimbursed for that time. Now, I don't know what that calculation or monetary amount is, but I just don't think we need this. I think with proper planning, the property owner could have this information. We are really fast at turning permits around.
Sure. I think where it comes into play sometimes is people go through the process not aware maybe of the options there. And then they come in our office and we let them be aware that it is there. I think sometimes if someone is realizing that they don't have a good option for a steeper lot, they're a little bit more quicker on the draw to seek a variance for it. Instead of a smaller relief here. Typically when we encounter them is when they come in and submit permits. And then that starts the burden, them ready to submit. And then that puts the burden on those ones out. Totally agree that it's better planning, but we don't see that.
Any legal issues? Because the surveyors they're accredited and certified by the state.
Not with a simple measurement like yes.
And this is just residential. This will not be commercial, correct?
This is just for residential. There was clarification in the first paragraph to clarify just for single family. Typically, with commercial properties, you've got more civil plans in place, and that usually dictates the survey. There's always survey requirements. So that dictates that, and it dictates with the end of the final certifications and verification there. So just for single family.
Is it, with any residential construction, they've got to supply a site plan,
Yes.
but not necessarily a topographic survey?
Right. We do have to pursue decent site plans sometimes, instead of being drawn on a napkin. So that is a challenge sometimes, but we don't always require a survey. If a survey is required, it's to, to really verify if there's setback issues or making sure those are met. So the survey is not always into play. And that can come into play sometimes even when we require those, and it still throws them out a few months.
What's the frequency of this being a problem?
Once or twice a year.
There had, some history behind it. When it was written, our zoning administrator was a surveyor when Wayne Green was in. In the time that I've been in that position, it was more common at certain points, depending on the lots that were available. There was a time when you could reduce it by 10 feet. When we changed the setback from 40 to 30, the setback, we reduced that down to 5. But we could, they're going to save $1,600, $700 not getting a survey. We could charge another $50, $75 if that's something that they're seeking. And I don't think it's very difficult for staff to do that.
So what happens when you go out there and it's not really clear where so let's say you've got to take that average between the two side yards. And you don't know where the side yards are because the corners haven't been pinned. Now, a surveyor can figure that out.
Yeah, I mean, if we're missing information, obviously, we would go back and require that. It may
Okay.
be something they would have to go do themselves. The ones we've encountered, it's just been an obvious, basically a 10-foot drop, you've got it. 1 foot for 2 feet of elevation, and they've been pretty pronounced when we go out there. We feel like we're sitting holding these guys up for 4 months for, something that's pretty clear there. My understanding, there's no ramifications on any legal issues with the survey. It's just a simple measurement.
Yeah.
But I think if, anything, we've got the right, I think, an ordinance to require a survey at any point if we feel like we need that information.
So we could require that the corners be known already.
Sure. If
can-
that's
we
the
can put
case,
that in.
then they go ahead and maybe they do get the surveyor to do it. But if there's properties, we know where the pins are, we know where the right of way is, those types of things. This can even be pulled off a center street line, 45 from the centers. I mean, that's always kind of a given that you can go by there. That's always an option to make them do it, I think.
I think I'd be happier if it said the administrator or a licensed North Carolina surveyor.
They never give you option.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents.
This is open for public hearing. If you would like to speak on this subject, just please come up. You don't have to be sworn in. And speak at the podium, give your name and address. Okay. Council, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
So you're good, Brian, with this, with the requirements and stuff that we just talked about then, so you're good with that recommendation?
Yeah, we can include the or, and, we can do an amendment to the fee schedule at some point to, I think, to capture that.
That should be included in the motion, okay? So, David, would you like to make the motion?
Well, if we're only, since we're discussing, if we're only doing this 2 times a year, I don't think we need to charge then. If it's once a month, then that's a different deal.
But what if it does become, I mean,
Well, then, if it becomes problematic, they can bring it back to us, the planning board.
okay, so you want to make a motion?
I would make the motion that we accept this with the change of language, administrator or a licensed North Carolina surveyor. And in each of the instances where it's appropriate. I think there's 1, 2.
There's 2 in that section, 2 in the other. So, yeah,
Oh, okay, yeah, 4.
we can do that.
Okay. All right, we have a first, we have a second. Any further discussion? Nope. Ms. Berry, how do you vote?
I vote for it.
Okay, Mr. Harwood,
Aye.
Ms. Pickett,
Aye.
and Mr. Matheson.
Aye.
Okay, so that does pass.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, regular agenda. We have the oath of office for Tasha Brown, our finance director. Took on this responsibility a few months ago.
Before you do that, I'll go ahead and say something real quick. I know you like to stand up here in front of everybody. So Tasha was officially hired October 23rd. And then when she was officially appointed by council, she was in class at school government, so she was not able to do it. She has been sworn, but this is ceremonial, and we want to do that. But I'll just give a little background on Tasha. Tasha started her career in the private sector, working for Larry Smith Toyota in Hickory under her father, assisting with customer service parts and service. She then moved on to work for the Caldwell County School System as a receptionist and financial secretary at the elementary and middle school level. Tasha then went on to serve in local government for 10 years for Caldwell County in the Property Tax Collections Department and was later promoted as a certified personal property tax assessor. She started with the town of Blowing Rock in 2017, processing all the town's accounts payable, invoices, and purchase orders, and assisted with accounts receivable. In 2022, Tasha was promoted to Finance and Accounting Support Specialist to assist the former finance director with related tasks, process bank reconciliations, and collected and balanced occupancy taxes for the town. Tasha has 16 years of local government experience and has served the town of Blowing Rock for almost 7 years. Tasha's been instrumental in maintaining the town's financial and budget stability over the past several months through the transition of hiring a new finance director. In addition, Tasha has been very effective in the audit process, providing background knowledge and resources to the auditors for submittal of the fiscal year 22-23 audit to the local government commission. Tasha is married to Peter Brown and has a daughter, Caitlin, and a granddaughter, Jane. Her son-in-law, Rourke, works for the town's landscape department. Now you can go.
I, Tasha Brown, do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of North Carolina, and the town of Blowing Rock, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of finance director, to which I have been entrusted. Furthermore, my actions will not be influenced by personal or political friendships or obligations. So help me God.
does follow in a very timely manner. Now we have the presentation of our 2022-2023 audit. And this is done by Hunter Wiseman, Scott Price, and Thompson Audit Firm. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. In front of you, you should have a copy of both the audit report as well as a copy of our presentation summary included in the packets. And this is also going to be presented on the screen as well. As you said, my name is Hunter Wiseman. I work with Thompson, Price, Scott, and Adams. To start with, I would like to cover a few items. If you can, open for me your audit report to page 1. This is going to be the opinion letter for the town of Blowing Rock for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2023. We have issued an unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of opinion that we can issue. It means that we are aware of no material misstatements in the town's financials. Now, the audit report contains all of the information regarding the town's financial statements, but what we like to do as a firm is to pull out key performance items that we present in the presentation summary. So if you can, open the presentation summary for me. Yep, that will be it.
Which page are you?
Which page?
It'll be just, if you can scroll up 2 pages. I'm not sure as far as in your,
26 or?
I think that you will need to go up,
This way.
depending on where it falls. Oh, sorry, that would be it right there. So if you go up a page, sorry, the other one.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And if you can keep going up a little bit more,
Would it be page 4?
it will be page 1.
Oh, I was on it.
Page 1.
There you go. Yes, sir. Thank you. So this is the letter to governance. It basically covers the items that we have discussed with management during the course of the audit. I'm not going to reread it to you in its entirety, but I do want to cover a few key items. If you take a look here at the qualitative aspects of accounting practices, there was a new GASB pronouncement implemented this year. It's GASB Statement 96, subscription-based IT arrangements. That was evaluated that the town did not have any that were material for the year of June 30th, 2023. But it is our advisement that you continue to evaluate if there are any material subscriptions that would need to be recorded in future years. The letter notes that we relied on no significant estimates or assumptions during the course of the audit. And also that the statements were presented are neutral, consistent, and clear. If you can go to page 2. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Perfect, thank you. We encountered no difficulties when performing the audit with management. We've received excellent help from Tasha, from Misty as well, Kevin, and also the prior finance officer. Everyone's been very attentive when we ask for any items. They're quick to respond, quick to provide information. There were no material corrections that were passed on, so any items that needed correction, we have corrected them so that the statements are materially correct. Again, we can state here that there were no disagreements with management that arose during the course of our audit. And our audit is dated November 29th, 2023. There were no consultations with outside accountants with regards to a second opinion on any of our findings for the audit. And we do have 2 findings that I would like to discuss now. The first finding is for a prior period adjustment, which was relating to an adjustment to opening debt balances on the installment purchases in both the governmental and water and sewer activities. The debt was overstated as of June 30th, 2022. So the prior period adjustment was to reduce the opening debt balance, which also results in an increase in fund balance at the July 1st, 2022 point. There is also a second finding which was generated from the Local Government Commission's data input worksheet relating to a budgetary violation for the water and sewer plant operations. I would like to point out here that the budget for water and sewer was not overspent as a fund, but the budget for the department itself was overspent. This can be corrected by timely budget amendments to move the budget where it's available to cover any overspending. And I have actually discussed this with Tasha as well, and she's already begun to take measures to make sure that department heads are being informed timely, so that way they can ensure any expenditures that they have are not going to put them over budget for the year. If you can, please go to the next page. Thank you. I always like to note here that please ensure that the board will be aware of any new GASB pronouncements. As far as we're aware, there's no major new GASB announcements coming out for 2024. None of the same impact of both GASB 87 from 2022 and GASB 96 from 2023. But it is good to stay up to date, make sure that nothing sneaks up on you. And as a restriction of use, these results are intended for the mayor and the town council of the town of Blowing Rock and should not be used by anyone else in an official capacity. If you can go to the next page. So as I mentioned, the audit report contains all of the information from the financial statements, but we do like to pull out a few key items to present here. Starting with the first line there, the total fund balance for the general fund had an increase of roughly $900,000 for the year over 2022, while the unavailable fund balance, or consisting of reserve for state statute, inventories, and prepaids, also increased by roughly $1.4 million. The restricted and assigned fund balance increased by roughly $1.4 million, owing to the restricted by state stabilization. And the general fund expenditures increased by roughly $300,000. The fund balance available as a percentage of general fund expenditures is calculated by taking the total fund balance for the general fund and removing the unavailable fund balance, which consists of the restricted items, to determine what is actually available for covering your expenditures. This year, the percentage available was 28.96%, which is a decrease of roughly 5% from 2022. The unassigned fund balance was $3,598,000, which is a decrease of roughly $500,000 from 2022. And the unassigned fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures was 27.7%, a decrease of roughly 4% from 2022. Then we can cover revenues for the major funds as well as the non-major funds. To start with, the general fund had revenues of $137,000, roughly a $600,000 decrease from 2022. The capital project fund had net expenditures of $41,000, which was a roughly $2.3 million increase from 2022. Water and sewer fund had net revenues of $203,000, roughly a $40,000 decrease from 22. And in total, other governmental funds had an increase of roughly $30,000 to $226,000. Next, we cover the cash and accumulated depreciation for the water and sewer fund. Obviously, it's important to note that the water fund is going to have a large amount of assets because that's going to include the infrastructure for the water fund, as well as any current projects that are going on, if they're extending any lines or purchasing any items. There was an increase this year of roughly $1.5 million in the total fixed assets, and of course, an increase in accumulated depreciation from the year prior as well. The cash for the water and sewer fund increased by roughly $800,000 from 2022. Here we compare the cash and the fund balance and net position for the various funds. Just a couple of items that I wanted to note here. Cash for the general fund decreased by roughly $400,000, while the cash for the capital project fund increased by roughly $2.7 million, and the cash for the water and sewer fund increased by roughly $800,000. Now, one thing that I do like to pull out when we're discussing the water and sewer fund is the cash generated from operating activities. Kevin, I'm not going to ask you to scroll to this, but I will note that it is Exhibit 8 in your full financial statements. And the cash generated from water and sewer activities for operating was $566,000. So in essence, the operations of your water and sewer generated $500,000.
That was in excess, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Again, there was an increase in the fund balance, total fund balance for the general fund, as well as an increase in the total fund balance for the capital project fund and the water sewer fund and the non-major governmental funds. Next, we get into the property tax section. You can see that there was a decrease in the property tax rate from 2022 from 43 cents for $100 to 37 cents per $100. And I would like to note that this is the first year that you're going to see the impact of the reassessment. So in the prior year, your total property valuation was $1.2 billion. As a result of the reassessment, your total property valuation is now roughly $1.6 billion for the town. There was an increase in the total net levy of roughly $800,000. And the town continued to maintain an excellent collection rate, especially when compared to the rest of the state. The debt had a slight increase of $200,000 for the governmental activities and an increase of roughly $1.7 million for the business type activities. And then at the bottom of this page, you see a breakdown in the general fund revenues and the general fund expenditures. If you go to the next page, this is
the whole thing or just top?
Just the top will be fine, thank you. This is a graphical presentation of the fund balance. Sometimes it helps to be able to see it in this form compared to the prior years, but you can see that the total fund balance has been increasing, as has the restricted and assigned fund balance from prior years, and it's a continual increase.
Quick explanation for the citizens. Restricted and non-restricted.
Restricted fund balance means that there are restrictions placed either by the board or by an external party that this fund balance cannot be used except for the express purposes of it. So specifically what makes up the large amount of the restricted for the town of Blowing Rock is restricted by state stabilization. That's an amount that's determined by the state when we prepare their report that says this amount must be restricted for the town. It's been increasing because the town's receivables have been increasing each year at June 30th, 2023.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. If you can go to the next chart, please. Again, this is just a representation of the fund balance available. So it has been decreasing from 2019 to 2023. It's been on a steady decrease. It is still, I will note, above the financial performance indicator of concern metric that the state uses, which is 25%. If you can, next chart. Thank you. So kind of in tandem with that, you also see that the unassigned fund balance for the general fund expenditures has been increasing as well. So unassigned fund balance is different than available fund balance in that the unassigned fund balance for the town of Blowing Rock will not include any assigned balances that the board has already put for its fund balance at 2023. For the town of Blowing Rock, that would be subsequent year expenditures that were already included in the adopted budget for 2023-24. If you can for the next chart, thank you. Again, this is just in chart information presenting that the general fund did have a slight decrease in its total net income for 2023, while the capital project fund had a considerable increase from 2022. So it is not running at as considerable a net loss as it was in 22. And the water and sewer fund maintained roughly the same net income as 2022. I would also like to note that 2022 and 2023 are 2 consecutive years that the water sewer fund has generated income after 3 years of a loss.
That's our rate structure.
Next.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So here you can see the fixed assets for the water and sewer fund are increasing steadily each year. That's to be expected. And the cash for the water and sewer fund has increased from 2022. Next chart, please. Thank you. Here we have the graph breaking down the comparison between the cash balances and the fund balances for the major funds, as well as the information presented at the bottom as well. Again, this is just a presentation of the information already covered in the summary of info. Yes, please. This chart is presenting the property tax rate for the last 5 years. So as you can see, it went up in 2022 to 0.43. This year it came down to 0.37, likely a result of the reassessment for 2022. And keep in mind that the year is always trailing. So the assessment done for 2022 will be reflected in 2023, which this is the first year. Thank you. The state's number is always a year trailing. So last year, the state average for collections was 99.08%. This year, by comparison, now Blowing Rock has a collection rate of 99.34%, which is excellent, even compared to the rest of the state. And the last page of our charts here is a breakdown both of the general fund revenues and also of the general fund expenditures. And then if you can, go to the very last page. So this was touched on briefly as we were going through the letter to governance, but this is the financial performance indicator of concern that was identified on the state's data input, that a budget violation was identified in the water sewer plant operations. You do have 60 days to respond to this financial performance indicator of concern, which I've already notified Tasha about. That 60-day period starts tonight as of the presentation. That covers the presentation summary, and I'll be happy to answer any questions to the best of my abilities.
I do have a question. Starts tonight and it runs for 60 days.
Yes, sir.
And that will be resolved within 60 days, or
Yes, sir.
your explanation of it will be?
So an explanation will be sent to the state within 60 days,
Okay.
basically informing them of the financial performance indicator of concern and the measures that the town has taken to remediate the issue.
Good, great, thank you. Council?
Has the financial statements been sent and accepted yet?
They have been sent to the LGC. We are still awaiting their acceptance. The ones that we have submitted as of middle of November are just being accepted today. So we are seeing that there's been a considerable delay from the LGC in acceptance.
So this is a delay from the LGC?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They have the financial statements. They just need to review them and accept them.
Okay.
I thought you were
David? Doug?
This is the second year the firm has done this audit, correct?
Yes, sir.
So first year's sometimes it's a honeymoon period. You know, you're getting to know the town, town's getting to know you. Is there anything in terms of internal controls or anything that was noted in last year that has been corrected?
There were no issues as far as we noted with internal controls. Now, our audit is not designed to test internal controls. It's designed to just test material financial statement presentation. But as far as we can tell from our testing, no issues with internal controls. I do think that a good measure that Tasha has taken has been to regularly start informing department heads as to where they stand with their budget, so that way they can be sure that they are not going to be going over budget, and that avoids any budgetary violations. So that way next year, hopefully there will be no FPIC.
So this actually took place previous year,
Yes, sir.
2022, 2023.
Yes, sir. This would have taken place before Tasha was the finance officer.
Okay.
Do you have any idea as to how the LGC will react on this and how it may affect us down the road?
Generally speaking, I don't think that their reaction is going to be too harsh, especially because the fund itself was not over budget. It was just a matter of that specific department was over budget. Honestly, if there had not been as much change at that point of time when you have a change in finance officer, it likely would have been addressed in a timely manner and then been taken care of. I think that it was just a matter of so many things going on that slipped through the crack, but I don't foresee that being an issue with the LGC.
Councilman? Good? Doug? Good? Ms. Perry?
Well, I think he explained it very well. Very clear.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I made a motion.
Okay, Cat Perry's made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion, ladies, gentlemen? Okay, Ms. Perry, how do you vote?
Aye.
Harwood?
Aye.
Pickett?
Aye.
And Mr. Matheson?
Good job, Tasha.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. West.
Great job, did a good
Thank you. And
job.
again, I'd just like to reiterate, we are very happy with the help that we received from management, Kevin, Tasha, Ms. Deed as well, and also Nicole, the former finance officer.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I meant to make a mention of something a little while ago, but I didn't, so this is not on the agenda. We have a birthday celebration this evening, Mr. David Harwood. You turned 30, is that
I'd like to
correct?
stay with the agenda if that's okay.
That's perfectly acceptable, and happy birthday, Mr. Harwood.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we don't sing.
I'll second and third.
So keep in mind, he is accepting gifts at home later, okay? All right, so moving right along. The RTAC appointment discussion. Mr. Rothrock.
That's why we heard. It's getting cold back here. I didn't know why. Doors open. All right. Mayor and council, the High Country Council of Governments is requesting an appointment to the Rural Planning Organization Regional Transportation Advisory Committee, RTAC, as I like to call it. This position rotates every 2 years between Blowing Rock and Town of Seven Devils. This position has been filled by Wayne Bonomo of Seven Devils for the past 2 years, and the RTAC meets quarterly through the year. David Graham with the High Country COG has requested a representative from the town to be selected prior to January of this year, and you received a memo from David. I did hear, instead of us wrestling for the position, Seven Devils manager said that they would be willing to allow us to have a representative to serve for the next 2 years.
Who would like to serve?
Melissa. I'll make a motion for Melissa. Nominate Melissa.
Do you have the time, Melissa?
I can do that, yes.
Okay, so Melissa has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve Melissa for this 2-year tenure?
So move.
We got a yes from Doug. Do we have a
I'll
second?
make and second.
I'll second.
We got a second. Ms. Perry,
Aye.
Mr. Harwood,
Aye.
Ms. Pickett. You
guess
can't
I'm voting
vote.
for
You
myself.
can't vote.
You are.
No.
Good luck.
Mr. Matheson,
David was there, so good luck.
is that a
Yes.
yes? Okay, that's an aye. Okay, thank you, Melissa, for taking this on.
Thank you, Melissa. And I've been appointed chair again, so
Oh, hey, we get to hang out.
Actually, we don't meet at the same time.
Do we get to vote on that?
We meet in the morning, y'all meet in the afternoon. But thank you, and I'll pass that on to David.
Okay, moving right along. Memorial Park Phase 2, bid award and financial options. Kevin, drop the rock.
Doug's gonna help me too.
Doug.
I'll give you a little background, and then Doug's got a presentation, some of this from the retreat. But background on the Memorial Park project, Phase 2, but going back to the original phase, spring of '23, the Memorial Park Improvements Project came in way over budget estimates of $1.3 million. The lowest bid for the complete project at that time was $2.9 million. The project was divided into 2 phases in hopes of realizing some savings through the rebid process. Phase 1 of the project was rebid and as a bathroom addition and remodel project in the summer of '23. And VPC Builders, local guys, submitted a bid price of $901,000. Town entered into a contract for the bathroom project with VPC Construction in July, with a total cost of engineering and contingencies adding to the total of $1.1 million and some change. Funding sources for Phase 1 are summarized by the following. Town fund balance allocation of $152,000. The GO bonds for the recreation component, $431,000. TDA, $152,000. ABC store contribution of $50,000. The Brom sale, when we sold that part of the property, $252,000. And then the remaining portion of what the TDA had obligated towards paying off the parking deck was another $83,200. So that covered that part. Phase 2 of the project consists of replacing the tennis court, a new double pickleball court, reworking the volleyball court, shuffleboard, new horseshoe pit, picnic shelter, retaining walls, and sidewalk to provide ADA accessibility from Wallingford Street, drainage and landscaping. This project was bid in October, and then again, as we only received one bid at the time, again in November, and we received 2 qualified bids. VPC was the lowest qualified bidder with a base bid of $1.691 million. Alternate, which is a sidewalk along Wallingford, was $189,000, and then another $12,000 alternate for adding sod. Completing designated qualifying portions of the project will allow the town to realize a $500,000 Part F grant that was awarded in 2002. Bathroom improvements in Phase 1 do not count towards the Part F grant match. Knowing the bids were higher than expected, McGill Associates worked with VPC to lower the base bid by $274,757 through value engineering. A summary of those savings are attached. The biggest savings would be if we removed the pickleball court, which is about $192,000. Through these savings, the base bid would be reduced to $1.4 million. And then there's some other options that you can look at. So option 1 would be bid the entire project bid, do the whole thing with both alternates. In engineering and contingency is $2.1 million. Option 2, the entire project bid with both alternates, but remove the pickleball court and related retaining walls and the sidewalk through the lower part of the park. That's $1.8 million. And then the project base bid with no alternates and removing pickleball, retaining walls, and that sidewalk would be $1.6 million. I think I'll stop there because I know Doug, the numbers are just flying around, but Doug can give you a graphic illustration and explanation of where we've been and what the options are in a graphic form. So, ready, Doug?
Yes.
Welcome back.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Given my history with this project, I thought it might be a good idea for the guys to dust me off and pull me off the shelf. So it's good to be back. So I'm going to talk about, I'm going to graphically through presentation tell you everything Kevin just told me. So not exactly.
It'll be better.
But we'll say it's better. Go ahead. So
We had original scope. We did the Part F grant application, and I say we, that was the town's committee, High Country Cog and McGill together. We selected an option. We applied for a Part F grant thinking that was about a $1.3 million project. I think we had a pandemic since then and a lot of pricing changes. And after a lot of political blessings, we'll call them, the project got funded. Go ahead to the next slide. So we started with the design, and in the design, there were some things added, some things changed, and we came up with the project that we have today. We added some sidewalks. Originally, the plan was to replace the tennis courts. I shouldn't say replace the tennis courts. Those that remember, I think somewhere around 2005 or 6, we put the sand-filled grass on the tennis courts because we could never get the grass to go away. And that was the most cost-effective option to hide the cracks. Well, it's beyond its useful life, so it's going to have to be replaced. And the original plan was to replace those tennis courts with new tennis courts that would be pickleball courts also. Through the design process, it was decided that we really needed dedicated pickleball courts and the tennis courts. So we added pickleball courts. We're going to resurface the basketball court for pickleball, new striping, some sidewalk through the property, a sidewalk on Wallingford. We're going to relocate the dumpster closer to the building. Originally, it was planned to be down in the far corner, but put it closer to the building. And added a goggle ball pit with a seawall. Now, one of the things I want to say, Kevin mentioned the bond projects that were in the used for the bathrooms. Those of us that remember the bond projects, one of the projects on that list was to replace the retaining wall behind the tennis courts. In fact, I can't remember the year, a couple of years before the bond, we did a design to replace that, or to put a retaining wall in there. It was expensive and it was put on hold. That retaining wall has been needing replacing for a number of years. But all that culminated into a project, next slide. And the project was bid for budget. Back in the spring, the town decided to phase the project. We took bids on the bathrooms. That was awarded. That's where part of this project began. Other than repairing some things, that's where the project began. Everybody needed bathrooms. So we moved forward with the bathrooms. That project's under construction. Things are going well. It should finish early in 2024. And in November, we received bids for the second phase of the project. For intents and purposes, we'll call that the Part F scope. Don't get hung up on the term. It's just easiest to keep things to flow. That bid for just the project was $1,893,324 with the alternates for VPC. So now, how do we implement that? Going to the next slide. So the restroom, phase 1's under construction. That's taken care of. Phase 2, with the Part F elements, you see the breakdown there of the bids Kevin mentioned. A total with alternates of $1,893,324. Now that's the construction cost. Later we're going to talk about total project costs that include contingencies and a little bit of construction phase services that we'll have during the construction. There's ideas to value engineer. There's alternates to consider. Let's go on to the next slide. So here's sort of the award scenario. One of those being we award the whole project with the alternates that we're bidding. Total project cost is $2,134,656. Another alternative would be do the entire project with the alternates minus the pickleball court and related retaining walls and that lower sidewalk. That was the value engineering items. That gives us a total project of $1,832,424. The third option would be to not do the alternates and take the value engineering. That's the lowest option being presented of $1,610,719. total project cost for the remaining of the project. So how do we, once that, go to the next one, once one of those is selected, how does that get funded? So we talk about funding scenarios. The base of that is going to be a $500,000 Part F grant. Now that has to be matched, obviously, with the remainder coming from either funding from the current fund balance from the town general fund or to finance the project, typically over a 5 to 7 year period. So you can look at those total project costs, take $500,000 off of that and think that's what you're going to take from fund balance, or that's what you're going to finance. There's been discussions about supplemental funding to cover that through partnering with TDA at a certain amount, or maybe some other community partners. That was in the staff report. So let's talk about some timeline items. Looking at the restrooms being complete the spring of '24. We have bids for the Part F grant that are good for 90 days, and that bid validation period is through the 7th of February, which is that's past the January meeting, past the retreat, and just short of the regular February meeting. So in early 2024, the decision needs to be made, what award scenario, how to fund it, and then award the bid. If we move forward in that timeline, there's going to have to be, if borrowing is the selected method of funding the project, there's LPC processes that have to take place, and the construction would start sometime in '24 for phase 2, and probably finish. It's a 270-day contract is the bid time that we have, which is 9 months to final completion. So I doubt we would start early enough in '24 to finish in '24. Probably sometime in '25, and then we get into how does that work through weather. It would be the expectation. Just to give you another back information time-wise, the Part F agreement had a 3-year timeline, which has a current deadline of January 31st, 2025 to be complete. The question was asked, could you get a time extension? We do a number of Part F projects. Our company has had more Part F projects funded in the last few years than any other company. And 2 of the people who manage Part F projects work for us now. So it's pretty safe to say that if we are under construction and we're not quite finished by the deadline, we shouldn't have a problem getting a time extension, one time extension.
What would that be for?
Typically, it's a 12-month time extension. Now, we've had projects that received a time extension, received another time extension, and Part F cut them off after that. They funded a portion of it, and then everybody agreed to part ways. So I don't think it's unheard of to get a time extension. I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. It's easier to get a time extension if we're making progress, though. If we put the project on hold and sit here for 15 months and get to the deadline and we haven't started construction, it's going to be a little tougher to get a time extension consideration for that. If the town decides to not move forward with the project, you would have to forfeit the Part F grant. I won't say that is going to preclude you from getting a future grant, but it could have a negative impact because it's not a pure scoring process, as we found out, having one of the top scoring projects and still not getting funded when this was first submitted. It's not a pure scoring process, it is a political process as well of how they get selected. So they'll give you some information to consider. There's not a need necessarily to make a decision tonight on awarding the contract because you really have to determine the funding mechanism before the town awards the contract. So that's a lot of information. I'm sure there's still some questions in there about processes and procedures and what ifs.
Council? Council, go ahead, yes.
I'm assuming that if we went with option 3, removed the pickleball court, the retaining walls, and a sidewalk, we would still get part F.
Yes. Yes, we would, the Part F grant requires you to meet the intent of the elements that are in the agreement.
Okay.
And that would allow us still to achieve the elements that were in the agreement.
I would say that if we did part or section 3, is that correct? Option 3. One of the big issues, council, is the retaining wall that needs to be replaced. Am I not correct?
Now, when it says minus the pickleball court, retaining walls, and lower sidewalk, that's the retaining wall for the pickleball court.
Okay.
Not for the tennis court.
There's a retaining wall within that pickleball court. Memorial Park is one of the prettiest parks around. It's nice downtown location, but the more you look at it, it's not flat. It takes a lot to make a flat spot big enough for pickleball courts. And we've already got the flattest spot for the playground and the tennis courts. So to get pickleball courts in there, we had to put a retaining wall in. So that's that retaining wall. The one retaining wall behind the tennis courts on Wallingford to allow for the ADA ramp and the parking would still be in the project.
Okay. Council, if I may, I got a few concerns that I just want to throw out. Okay, one, the positive note is we have that Part F at least till 2025. Okay, but interest rates are up considerably. We're going to have to borrow the money, I would think. We have roll-offs in 2025 and 2026. So if we started a project in late 2024, spearheaded for completion in 2025, we would still get our money, Part F, and hopefully interest rates would be down. And we'd have the roll-offs to pay the loan off, okay? I just feel like if we're gonna do it, let's do it right to start with. But, I mean, the councils, yourselves and others we've all been involved with this project. And David's group, who's chaired, did a great job of putting together what the needs were. That's just my thoughts. Table it till, we can look at, realistically funding. What do you think, David? I mean, you were more involved with this than anybody.
Yeah, seems like it gets more expensive every time.
I will say that if you take this bid and the bid on the restrooms, it is less than it was when we bid all of it together the first time.
That's true.
Yeah, that was a good move, and we needed the restrooms. I'm surprised though, and I'm not questioning your expertise, Doug. I'm surprised that we can eliminate items that had points attached to them and not affect the eligibility of the grant.
The points were with the tennis courts. I don't think we had points associated with pickleball.
Even though that was a new activity point?
Pickleball
I
was,
don't think they
it was
gave
a
us
new
new
activity.
activity points for that.
New activity had to be defined as something that was not previously offered in the park.
Which is tennis, they consider tennis
Like
and
cornhole.
pickleball.
Like cornhole or the dog. It had to be something that was, that we did not already offer to be considered a new piece.
There are some level of points for replacing things, and we are replacing things.
Yes.
The point, if I recall, the reason we added the second pickleball court was to take the demand off of having, to set up to have the unrestricted use on the basketball court. So we had a designated basketball court, which gets used quite often by children from the school, and then to have the designated pickleball court, so they were separated again. That was why we put those elements in.
Would it be detrimental in any manner with our Part F if we received outside contributions and funding? Do they look,
The Part F is looking for somebody to provide a match.
so they don't care where it comes from?
No.
Could we possibly table this to retreat so we could
I think that's
bring
probably a good
in
idea. What do you think,
more
Council? David?
elaborate designs for how we could fund this?
David?
Oh, I'm all for tabling it, to retreat. I'm just having, indigestion with the price tag.
Yeah.
And wondering if there's an option under 1.6 that still maintains our grant eligibility.
That, while the staff is looking for financing, creative financing opportunities, we could work with Jennifer and their party representative to confirm what can and can't be changed. There's been some discussions already
Yeah,
with them, but that'll give us plenty of opportunity to have those discussions.
I don't want to miss the opportunity of a $500,000 grant. But
Anywhere from 1.6 to 2.1 for, I mean, basically cosmetic upgrades to our park is
well, needed cosmetic.
needed cosmetic, but still, a majority of is cosmetic. I mean, the retaining walls, sidewalks, that's needed, the bathrooms were needed, but
The beyond cosmetic.
they're beyond
Right.
cosmetic, but yeah, a lot of it is just,
Okay.
it's not infrastructure.
So do you want to, does the council want to table this and discuss it at retreat?
Yeah.
Is that what you'd like to do?
Does that work with our retreat agenda?
Yes, it's starting to grow, but absolutely, we can put it on there.
They're 12-hour days instead of 8-hour days, but
As I've discussed with each of you, if we end up walking away from the whole thing, one thing we will have to do is something along that retaining wall at Wallingford to preserve what we have, or we're gonna lose some ground and some parking. So, but you knew that.
Do we have a breakdown on just the retaining wall cost?
No.
Could you get that to us by retreat? An
We
estimate?
can talk to them
An
and see,
estimate?
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, that would be helpful.
all right. So this is tabled till retreat, and I'm sure the council will come up with some creative ideas. Thank you. Good seeing you. All right, moving right along. Okay. Well, in closing, I want to thank all those that went out and voted and took the time to go out and vote. That means a lot, and it shows the support in our community. I think it's really great. So thank you. Thank you for all the people that ran for office. That's a stressful thing to do, and it means a lot that we have so many people run in a very, it's just great. I'm proud of our town. Okay, applications for the town boards. That's up, and the council will review these applications at retreat. Am I correct, Doug? Okay. So this is Planning Board, Board of Adjustments, ABC Board, what else? BRAC. So if you would spread,
Whatever we're calling it now.
but if you would spread the word that, hey, that's a very important part of our town are these boards, because they make recommendations to the council. and they're also listening to citizens. And last but not least, we said David Harwood's birthday, but we cannot sing to him. And David, I want you to know a higher power told me to mention this, okay?
Hillary?
Hillary, yes, it was Hillary.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. I hope everybody's safe in their travels if they travel. And thank you for all that you've done for our town in 2023. Would you like to? We go down the road and we talk about our families. We talk about.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about my family, but, because it's too much to get into. But I'm gonna say again, how happy I am to be on this town council and how optimistic I am about moving into the future and making an impact.
Well, welcome.
So,
David?
I simply want to welcome Kat. Looking forward to working with you, and congratulations.
thank you.
I'll second David.
Thank you, Melissa.
That was easy.
Doug?
I'm not gonna mess that up, so, I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and congratulations, David, Kat, Charlie, again. Look forward to the new year with working with y'all again, and look forward to the retreat, which looks to be getting fuller and fuller.
Well, it's a good thing. Town attorney doesn't have much to say, so no report on my end, but happy holidays to everyone and looking forward to the new year.
Sounds like Alan, doesn't he?
I've got a few updates. Mayor, if I could, the Main Street Water and Sewer project update. Water line installation is approaching Brom. From the south side, the contractor hopes to complete this section by the end of next week. They did some paving last week and hope to do a little bit more paving to finish that section up. Then they'll pull off until after January to continue through downtown on the water line. After January 8th, they'll do the rest of that utility work. They're working on a sewer crossing and aerial crossing down near Chatola, water line underneath Middle Fort, the one that ruptured last July of 22. So they're replacing that one. And I'll go ahead and put everybody on tentative notice. We're waiting on DOT to approve some specifics with a project that part of the project we're trying to do down north of Chatola towards the light. And that would be to replace 12-inch sewer line with 18-inch. If approved, this project would begin after Winterfest, so really the first week of February. The road would be closed in that section below Chatola or downstream of Chatola, Monday through Thursdays for February, March, and maybe part of April. It would be open on Fridays and the weekends. We will do a public press release coming, but for those that are here, we want you to know that is coming, and we're working on a routing plan for really truck traffic is where the biggest issue is. There's just not enough room to do that depth of sewer replacement in the road and to keep one lane open. So it'll be a little difficult, but it's the best time of year to do that. Memorial Park bathrooms the new section is getting near completion, painting inside and out, and hope to transition to the new bathrooms and start the remodel as we open the new part, hopefully sometime next week. And that's still on schedule to be done by the first week of February. And then the Town Council Winter Retreat will be Monday, January 29th through Wednesday, January 31st. And I don't know if you've been down yet, but the Social on Main is open for breakfast. We've been waiting for another place to eat, and we went down there today, and it's really good. And that's all I have for a report. And Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going into closed session. We will take a break. If you would, could you read that for me?
North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3.
We will reconvene after a short break in closed session. No decisions should be made in this closed session. This is just attorney-client information purposes. Thank you so much for coming this evening, and happy holidays.